Welcome back to the Restore Hyper Wellness Brownsboro podcast. Just a quick little disclaimer. This isn't related to corporate. This is just having a conversation with my favorite nurse, Haley Johnson. So, have you on today. You're more than just a nurse. You're actually part of the operations of Restore.
A little bit.
A little bit.
I just do whatever needs to get done.
It's a lot to get done.
Yeah. I mean, some days I am dealing with employee feelings, and some days I am calling 911 for a customer that comes in and needs some more assistance than we can give. But every day is different.
And that's good. And now, one of the things that we've done at Restore, which I really appreciate, is that we've been like a stepping stone for people figuring out that they have greater health problems. Because most people don't check their blood pressure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ever. And we have someone come in and they get their blood pressure read and there's like casually 220 over 110. And we're like, oh.
Something's going on.
Yeah,
we need some help.
We should probably go to the
doctor.
Go to the doctor right now. And the cool thing is a lot of them will take our advice. They'll actually go to the doctor and they can come back. They can get fluids. They can get treatments.
Yeah.
But if they didn't do that, they have no idea.
Absolutely.
So I feel like this is a good gateway to be like, all right, there's a lot of things you don't test for.
Yeah.
And we do like micronutrient testing and methyl detox testing. What are some of the things that you'll find out about yourself through testing like that you would have not known, and how does it impact your quality of life?
Yeah, so like a traditional doctor will do some basic tests like a B12 or maybe even some omegas, but that's pretty limited. That's about all that they can test based on insurance and a bunch of other issues. At Restore, specifically, we do a micronutrient test that tests for 59 different micronutrients, and it's not just that serum level. So if you're at your doctor and you got your B12 checked, if you had a steak the night before, odds are that B12 looks totally fine because it's not been fully absorbed into the cell. It's still floating around in your plasma. That's just a snapshot in time. And that could be a valuable marker if you draw a couple, or it could totally lead you in the wrong direction and you could think everything's okay when it's totally not. So our test through Cell Science Systems tests for a 3 to 6 month profile. It actually only uses the white blood cells, with the leukocytes specifically, which have a 3 to 6 month lifespan. So that can really equate for any variables in your diet, like you had a party the night before, or you've been eating really great for a week and that's not your norm. It really gives us a full picture of how things are looking. And then we can build specific drips. And also you can change your kind of diet at home. I always tell people it's 75% work at home that you're doing based on that micronutrient test and 25% work within Restore. On that test, you also get an antioxidant profile. So we hear things like quercetin and curcumin and elderberry, and all these things are great for health, immunity, longevity. But some people don't respond well to those things. So it is going to show you what helps your specific cells have a longer lifespan. So you know, okay, I'm sick, I should draw for these things. Or I know I have an increased inflammation state because I am going on vacation, so I should grab for these things. Not necessarily something you need to take every day, but good data to have for sure.
Okay, so I was always trying to figure out what the antioxidant profile meant.
Yeah.
Selenium and all that. So when it says very protective, that means something that I should take.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of people can have tons of those different antioxidants that they are protective from. So it's not like, okay, just take all 45 of these supplements, but it's data to have if you know you're going to be in like an increased stress state. It also has NAD on there, so that can be really helpful to know. There's also at the very top a oxidative stress score, and you want that to be high so you can have some good data on how your body's responding to general stress from there, and something that you can track over time. I usually recommend if somebody has like a questionable micronutrient and antioxidant assessment, let's test again in 6 months after you do about 6 months of whatever we recommend. If it's good-ish and there's just a couple things that you want to work on, then a yearly is a really good habit to get in.
Okay. Well, you said test for NAD.
Yeah, so NAD is one of those antioxidant, anti-inflammatories on the on that part of the test. It's not necessarily like, okay, it didn't say NAD was protective, I shouldn't do NAD. Obviously, we know NAD is protective on a cellular level, but that could be a sign that you are deficient in NAD if it is causing those cells to live substantially longer. So it's just one marker that we use to recommend NAD on.
And this is like old biology class. I might be wrong on this, but the reason why people die is that there's a genetic code in their cells, and that genetic code eventually stop reproduces, or like the telomeres have like an end cycle.
Yeah,
and that's why they die if disease doesn't take them first.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the basics of it, and like the really cruxed down of it that we all can kind of understand if you're like really into the data and the nerdy parts of it, you can get a little deeper. But yes, telomeres are copies of our genetic profile, and as over time, we don't copy them perfectly. So if we can improve the health of our mitochondria where that happens, then we can copy them more effectively longer and have a longer telomere, which would indicate that you have a lower biological age than what your actual age is, or vice versa. Let's say you're in a super oxidative stress state, you could have an older biological age than your chronological age is.
Yeah. And that's something a lot of people now talk about, like their epigenetic age and their biological age. And they're like,
Yes.
how does that differentiate?
Yeah.
How does that look? And you can see it sometimes. People are in their 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
They look like they're in their 30s. And then you have 40s and 50s who are like 70 or 90. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh boy.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with genes are genes, and some people can handle stress based on their genetic profile a little bit easier than others. Like I specifically, in our methyl detox test, I have a MTHFR variant, and I have two, so I got them from both my parents. And there's two variants that we kind of focus on, and I have the worst of the two, a double copy. So I kind of have like the worst possible MTHFR gene that I could have. So I know that I am somebody who is never going to handle oxidative stress, detoxification, even hormone regulation as easy as somebody else. So I need to put a little bit more time and effort into those things than maybe my neighbor does that can like party on the weekends and like still looks like they're 25 and keeps going and going and going.
Yeah. And so for the methyl detox test, first off, how much is it?
The methyl detox test is $175 for members.
Okay.
Don't remember the non-member price off the top of my head. I think it's
But
$200.
$175. And it's, you do this test once?
One time, and it's never going to change. So it tests for 5 genes. Those genes are responsible for making enzymes in the methylation cycle. Methylation is a super important part of our health. It's important for using our vitamins, synthesizing proteins, producing hormones, removing hormones, detoxification from different like toxins in our environment. So, I mean, it's super essential in every cell in our body. And if we know that our genetic makeup, like I just said, would put us at increased risk for that cycle to not work appropriately, then we can do different things to supplement those enzymes and give somebody the enzymes that give somebody the micronutrients that those enzymes would need to be created to help those genes work as effectively as possible.
That seems pretty cheap to get one test done for life.
Yeah,
I mean, any test I get done once.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that is a super essential test that almost everybody that walks in our door should do, unless they've had a genetic, what is that one? Like 13 or 23andMe and things like that. Those do exist. They're kind of hard to interpret. I think our test looks really user friendly. Like you can see green, yellow, or red. I have no variants. I have one variant. I have 2 variants. And we can kind of go through one-on-one, like what that means for a specific person.
And then, so with NAD, I know the dosing's always like back and forth. Like you have a loading dose, right? Mm-hmm. And it's, 500 milligrams over the course of 10 days?
Yeah, so there's 2 options. We have 500 milligrams over the course of 4 days. So 4 times you get 500 milligrams or 750 milligrams over 4 days. The intention of the loading dose is if NAD is kind of a compounding effect. So the more you have, the more you make, and then the less you break down, and it kind of gets better and better over time. If we start kind of down here, the loading dose takes us up here, and then we just kind of have to sustain being up here. If we just do single doses or shots or something like that, we like inch up and then a little bit back down and inch up and a little bit back down. So if you like think about that over a span of time, it could take you a year or 2 years to get to the same level that one loading dose would get you. Now you do still have to maintenance that, but it's much easier once you get it high to keep it high than do these like little tiny doses. Those are just going to help for short periods of time. And NADs, it's costly in some instances. So I absolutely recommend making the initial investment to get it up high, and over time just maintaining it. You can space out your maintenance doses over time as well, because like I said, it's a compounding effect. Once you get your levels high, you're going to sleep better, it's easier to eat better, it's easier to move your body more, so you need less supplemental NAD over time, unless somebody has like a chronic illness or something. They can decrease the frequency of those doses after a certain amount of time.
Now, my hypothesis, and I'd be wrong, is that the more you feel NAD, the more you need it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I know NAD can be scary because people kind of feel like crap when they're getting it. In my experience, this is pretty anecdotal, not a ton of research on it yet, but anybody who I have seen have a really, truly hard time getting through those loading doses are the people who have chronic illness, who have some of those gene variants that we talked about in the methyl detox cycle, people who have extremely stressful, high pressure jobs, those are the people that really struggle. So that would tell us that the people that have the worst time need it the most. They're also the ones that need it the most often.
Yeah, no, when I got my drip, I felt like I was on my butt.
Yeah.
I was going through it. And
I mean, part of that's because it's like the boy man flu, but
you like scrape your knee and you're like, I think I'm going to die.
yeah. That I think my husband has a really hard time with his NAD too, but
happens.
it's fine. It's fine.
But I feel the reason why I'm such a big fan is that I do feel so much better when I do it. And I wish I could take it all the time, but people have limits to how much you could take.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, whatever. But what's the reason though? Why would you not want to do too much NAD?
You know, there's just like not a ton of research in that area yet. If you put your body through too much, I mean, that's a stressor, just like working out, just like anything. It's a positive stressor, but you don't want too much of anything in those scenarios. Also, you need to detox out those mitochondria that are no longer functioning. That's part of why you feel terrible, is you're getting rid of mitochondria or lysing mitochondria. And that could be an added stress on the body. So like for me specifically, like I said, I have that MTHFR variant. I know I have a hard time with detoxification. So I need to take pauses in between my NAD doses to dry brush, get in the sauna, make sure my diet's on point, make sure my hydration's on point, get some IVs with some extra nutrients. And then I can do more NAD. Because if you just keep trying to get rid of mitochondria, like then your mitochondria are going to keep breaking down, and then it's never going to get easier to do your NAD, and your NAD levels are never going to rise because you never gave your body time to rebuild new healthy mitochondria.
Now, why would someone want to do, because everyone always goes back and forth and they're like, well, I could just take a supplement of B12 or I could just take a supplement of A. Why would someone do IVs, injections versus just like an oral pill?
Yeah, so I mean, NAD specifically, NAD is a huge molecule. There is nothing that tells your body once you break it down in your stomach to rebuild it back into NAD in the body. So I am a fan of doing like precursors like NR orally in between your NAD doses. Those have been shown to be a little more absorbable. But for the most part, any of those antioxidants, anti-inflammatories, they're super fragile, and our stomach is acidic. Gut health is terrible nowadays. And that's something that's part of the 75% that gets done at home. That work needs to be continuous. People are not going to absorb these oral supplements at a high rate. We also have no idea the quality or efficacy of those oral supplements, and there are some good brands, absolutely. But from an IV perspective, you're going to absorb 99% of what we're going to be giving you. Something like glutathione, I have never found one that has been proven to be super absorbable orally, even the liposomal ones that are super expensive. Also, at that point, you might as well just get an IV because the liposomal, it's so expensive, and you can come in one time for an IV and be okay for a little while, where you need to keep taking that every single day. Over time, you're going to spend more money on those kinds of oral supplements versus. That's also why I'm a really big fan of the micronutrient test, because you're putting in your IV exactly what you need, and we're not just guessing. I feel like, we've been doing this for 4.5 years. I'm a decent guesser, but I'm still guessing. So I can't just look at somebody and be like, you need all of this based on what I'm seeing right now. Mm-hmm. So that's a great way to save money and time also. We can build out a specific cocktail. And like an example of one that I would say, okay, we could do that one orally versus doing it in IV is glutamine. Glutamine is great for the gut. It's actually best for the gut if taken orally. It's great for muscles if we put it in your IV. That if your muscle recovery is your goal, absolutely, let's throw in the IV. But from a gut health standpoint, you should be taking that every single day, and it's proven to be pretty absorbable orally.
Yeah, and so one thing I love to talk to people about is, L-carnitine orally is trash because it converts to TMAO, which puts you at a higher risk of cardiovascular disease.
Exactly, yeah.
And to get even like the smallest amount as you would get in like an IV or shot, you'd have to take grams of it. And trust me, you have to take like 5-10 grams of a supplement. You don't feel that great afterwards.
No, your stomach's trashed.
And if you want to talk about, because I love L-carnitine.
Yeah, we know you have a love interest with L-carnitine.
If it was a girl, I'd take her on a date.
We're fully aware.
Fully aware. But tell us a little more about like the glory of taking L-carnitine.
L-carnitine can attack so many different need states. I really like it for muscle recovery. That's a big reason why you're going to be taking it. It's great for metabolism, which from a female health standpoint, if our hormones are dysregulated, metabolism is regulated down. That's my favorite one to give women in their like 40s to 50s as they like go through menopause to try and maintain muscle mass and that hormone regulation. Muscle mass, we know having muscle mass is a really big indicator of longevity. So if we have somebody in those older ages that is focusing on their strength training, which they absolutely should be, then L-carnitine can be a great way to keep that up without the wear and tear on their body that they might feel. Those are kind of my favorite reasons. Weight management is like all the rage right now. I'm not saying it's a supplement or like a replacement for a GLP-1, but it can be used pretty effectively if taken consistently from an injection or an IV standpoint to convert fat cells to energy, which is kind of a double-edged sword. We want to lose fat and we want to feel energetic. So it's one of my favorite ingredients to add to anyone's drip. Most people always feel great after it. I cannot think of a time where somebody was like, I was bouncing off the walls afterwards, or that if they were using it consistently with diet and exercise, that they weren't losing weight.
Yeah, well, especially I feel like there's a lot of diabetics that I see who come into Restore.
Yeah.
And for insulin sensitivity, L-carnitine can help with that. And what else, at Restore could probably help someone who is trying to become more insulin sensitive?
Yeah. I mean, that's another one of the big things that's all the rage right now. ALA is my number one choice for anybody who's coming in for insulin sensitivity. NAD is a huge one. There's actually a lot of good research on NAD and insulin sensitivity. The hyperbaric chamber, interesting. It like reduces the size of the glucose molecule and can help regulate blood sugar over time. Definitely one you have to stay more consistent on. But I like to do an L-carnitine biotin. Biotin's known to be important for blood sugar regulation. ALA, NAD, hyperbaric.
Yeah, and for people who come in, I'm the type of guy, I do big drips. I want to put everything I can in my drip.
Yeah.
I feel like you get more out of your drip when you do a bigger drip.
Absolutely. I mean, so base level, we're giving you hydration. Hydration, people are like, how long is it going to last? I gave you your hydration for the day. I didn't give you your hydration for the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So that's a great way to get ahead. You still have to maintain that part at home. I'm a big fan of those larger drips twice a month, 3 times a month, depending on what's going on, and strategically positioning those when you have a lot going on. That is way more effective than you coming in once or twice a week to get a drip with glutathione and B complex and just repeatedly doing that over and over again. I tell people, if you come in and you feel great after your drip before you even walked out the door, you were A, way too hydrated, or B, you drank too much alcohol, and we should have some other conversations about how we can enhance your wellness. But it really does take 24 hours to fully absorb. So strategically placing those like, hey, I have a vacation, I have a big test, I have a presentation, whatever it may be.
And I mean, alcohol is, I don't think I can argue with anybody that alcohol is good for you. And especially because they disproved the whole fact about red wine and the antioxidants you get. Like, that was a BS study.
It's like
Yeah, it's like you could also get a lot of stuff from just like doing other things. You don't need the red wine. Mm-hmm. But glutathione, I was doing some research, has a lot of interesting stuff for liver health.
Yeah.
And, if you're somebody who maybe had issues in the past, you're struggling. We have a lot of people who are going through journeys right now with recovery, and they'll come and see us to like get them back on track.
Yeah.
Like, what are things that people could do who maybe were like, even just having 3 drinks a week, which isn't a lot to normal people, but people like those little health nuts, it's a lot.
Yeah. So I think micronutrient testing is going to be super important to see what you depleted your body in. We know alcohol depletes our nutrients. That's part of the reason you feel like crap with a hangover the day after. The next thing, glutathione, absolutely. It's an antioxidant that helps take those toxins to the liver. We already have glutathione naturally in our body. This would just be like giving some exogenous glutathione. I actually really like NAC because NAC helps our body recycle our own glutathione a little more effectively. So as long as somebody has time to put that in their drip, I always recommend adding NAC and switching it back and forth with glutathione if they're doing it on like a regular cadence for detoxification and liver health. I also would throw the sauna in there. And then if somebody is suffering with addiction of anything, like so food, internet, anything like video games, alcohol, drugs, NAD that's actually why NAD was brought to the United States. There was a clinic in Mexico that was using NAD for alcohol addiction treatment and seeing great effects. So one of the first clinics was opened, I believe, in Georgia for addicts, and they were giving NAD to help recycle those mitochondria, because there's a lot of good theories around the mitochondria, like the mitochondria part of the cell being the part that is addicted to a substance. So if we can get those out and build new ones, then it can reduce cravings and improve the client's likelihood of success in that journey of addiction.
Well, 'cause I feel like the body, the body remembers just as much as your mind does.
Exactly.
Like if you keep feeding it a certain thing, it's going to expect that. So if you're feeding it, trash, alcohol, all that, it's going to be like, well, I'm used to this process now. Why are we changing up the workflow?
Yeah.
It's not a workflow that's going to work forever. It's not very sustainable.
No.
But when people start doing the new like cadence of IV drip shots, all
It
that,
could suck for a long time.
but then they start feeling better, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Wow, I didn't know life was supposed to be like this."
Yeah, I didn't know I could be this happy. I didn't know
I know. Well,
it could
I
be
think
this easy.
that's the cool thing about the reason why I was brought to Restore when I was a member is that I just didn't want to feel the way I felt anymore.
Yeah.
So I was tired of like I shouldn't. It's like I'm 23. I
Yeah.
should have energy. I should be excited.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who's like not feeling great, and you're like, okay, well, you shouldn't, like, this isn't normal. Like,
Yeah.
what about today's society that people consider normal isn't normal?
Yeah, I think people expect to be exhausted. I think people expect to be anxious and overwhelmed. I think that's a huge piece of our society today. And I'm not saying we can fix all that at Restore, but we can absolutely be a piece of that. We can be a piece that is consistent. It's almost like the third space. I think that was like a big Starbucks thing for a while. Like you have your home, your work, and then your third place is Starbucks. Like Restore can absolutely be that third space for somebody who is looking to improve their health and wellness and their mental health and their just overall outlook on life. Because everything that we do, the intention is that you feel better when you walk back out the door. That comes with a lot of commitment to daily routines and habits and mindset work, absolutely. But the sauna, IV drips, aesthetics, and having some time for yourself, self-care, relaxation can be a huge piece of that reset for somebody.
Yeah, there was like a study or something done where like cuddling was equivalent to a 60-minute massage. So like a sports therapy massage. So I'm like, okay, well, if that's the case, then obviously if you just take time for yourself,
Yeah.
and if you do things for yourself, you don't always have to like there's a lot of ways to recover. We can all agree there's like tons of ways to feel better about yourself. But if you find one that works and you like it, stick to it because it's going to do a lot for your recovery.
Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, I think we do have to put ourselves in uncomfortable situations that we don't like. I think that's something that we don't do enough in today's society. And that's like where cryo comes in. Like I tell people, you can do anything for 3 minutes. There's a huge mind block for getting into a negative 160-degree machine, but it is 3 minutes. And that if that's the hardest part of your day, then the rest of your day is easy. It's cake. You can do anything. That's what cold therapy is for me. I'm going in 15 million different directions. I have 3 kids. We have 4 studios. I'm here, there, and everywhere. But if I can start with cold therapy, I mean, it's over. I already went through the mental mind block of like, I don't want to do something for the day. My brain is set.
Yeah, I've noticed whenever I do cryo, it's like let's say if I'm like stuck or like in a loop or something.
Yeah.
I can loop pretty easy, honestly.
Same. Yeah.
I do cryo when I'm out of it.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
like your body basically gets like smacked in the face and it's like there's bigger things going on. Like you can die right now.
Get over it. Yeah.
You're like, this is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think that also we in our society currently, like, we think things should be easy. We think things should be like, I don't want to say handed to us, but kind of. That's kind of the mindset of especially like, I'm going to sound like an old lady. I'm only in my 20s, but like today's like teenagers and youth. And that's what we're just continuing to hammer into people. But it's not all supposed to be that easy. It is kind of a challenge, but all good things come from a challenge. And cryo can be that challenge for some people.
Yeah, cryo was my gateway drug to Restore for sure. Because I mean, that's where everyone kind of starts.
Yeah, a lot of people
they're
do.
like, oh, I heard about this cryotherapy. Let's try it out. And they heard it from either like Wim Hof or someone talking about cold treatments and what they can do for them. And I was like, okay, I think I'll give this a shot.
Yeah.
And if it works well, it's worth it. Is that how you notice most people like end up at Restore?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of our customers, I mean, cold therapy is gaining a lot of traction. So that's kind of how they find us. And then it is definitely a gateway. Like, oh, we have all these other things. I like cryo, like it needs to be consistent. And I think some people think like, okay, I'm going to come in one time and then I'm going to feel amazing. Like, no, it is definitely something that you should do consistently, both from like a muscle recovery standpoint and from a like mental health, just mindset standpoint. I think from there we can have a lot of good conversations. I love to make people roll the window down while they're doing cryo because then they're like stuck there and they have to talk to me for 3 minutes.
Like,
and
you make them talk? You don't play music?
Absolutely. I mean, I play music, but then I kind of turn it down and start talking about like, oh, what brought you in? Oh, you have neuropathy. That's interesting. We should absolutely be doing B12 drips, maybe some NAD and hyperbaric. It's a great way to talk to people about the rest of their life because they are absolutely stuck to talk.
Just imagining like the window slowly going down, your hip hop things like, we've been trying to reach you due to your car's extended warranty.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, oh my, that's crazy. There's one customer, every time she does cryo, she's like, you can just roll in and talk to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
what am I going to say? Yeah, this is
okay.
a great time for discovery questions. What's going on in the rest of your life? What can we help you with? That's what we're here for. I like to talk while I'm going through cryo. I always make my husband roll the window down.
I would go crazy. I'm in there, like you said, boy flu or whatever. But I'm in there and I'm like, want to be alive anymore. Like you're shaking.
Oh
and I'm
my
like,
gosh.
it's rough
not
for
that.
me. I don't, girls, you give birth and do all the crazy stuff,
We've done that a couple times.
Yeah. And you said, what, you're 20.
I'm 27.
Yeah, I'm 25,
Yeah.
bro.
Well, what's your point?
Well, it's just crazy how, and this is how you see with like people's lives and stuff, where they can grow up so fast. And cool thing is about you, like you've been doing this longer than I have with restore services.
Yeah.
And, you can do these types of services at a young age.
Yeah,
like
for
you
sure.
don't have to be, a lot of our clientele's a little older. That's noticeable. But you can definitely come in your 20s and get a lot from it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of found Restore because I felt like crap, honestly. I was really young. I already had 2 kids. My husband and I got married when we were really young. I liked nursing, but I didn't love nursing. There was a lot of things I was questioning about the medical field. So I got really lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. I started using the services pretty aggressively as soon as we started at the Cincinnati location. And then, I mean, both professionally and my own physical health, everything kind of fell into place from there. I started immediately with testing, and then I hit red light cryo pretty hard. I was doing IVs 2 to 3 times a month, pretty hard. Sauna whenever we could find some time to jump in the sauna. And I think that I would not be here in this capacity today if I wasn't doing those restore services. Definitely not professionally, because I don't think I could have handled the stress of running 4 studios without those services.
You need a lot. Well, I feel a lot of, high performing, I mean, also with just our nature of our business, a lot of people are high performing members of society. And NAD is great for get that edge.
Absolutely.
If you're trying to get an edge in like the workplace or think a little sharper, not be as tired at 5 o'clock. And that's what I enjoy is that I almost want it to be more of a networking opportunity. Yeah. But people get tired or they're coming in and they just want to get their drip. But
No, I mean, I think NAD really helps improve mental grit because it sucks. And then, so you have to do something that sucks to get to the part that feels really great. And because it just makes your mind a lot sharper. You can handle those stressors a lot more and recover a lot quicker from a stressful meeting or a 15-hour day or whatever it is.
Now, what are some of the like top, what do you hear and you just roll your eyes whenever someone talks about like IV drips or like vitamin therapies of this nature where you're like, that's just not how it works.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, it's just like you're wasting your money, you're peeing everything out, and like that these shouldn't be done outside hospitals. And I mean, Restore is extremely conservative with our health practices. If there is ever a question of if somebody could or should handle a bag of fluids or the nutrients that we give, we're not going to do it. It's absolutely something you need to talk to your physician about. But for a generally healthy person who is depleted because they have a poor diet or they have a great diet, but the minerals in our soil are depleted, or they had a baby or whatever it is, it can be a great way to get back to a good baseline. Peeing it out. If you don't need it, yes, you're going to pee it out for most of our nutrients, but you probably need it because we live in 2025 when a majority of people's diets are protein bars and eating out and, again, mineral depleted soil that their lettuce was grown on. So, again, that gets back to testing. Like, I am a huge proponent of testing, not guessing. Then I'm giving you something that you're actually going to need and absorb.
Yeah, well, especially in the today's society, the hormones have consistently gone down. Yeah, especially for men. I mean, you have guys who are like my age now who are just casually at like 300, 400 testosterone.
Which I don't think everyone knows what that means, but that's pretty low.
Yeah, well, and it's weird because the reference range is 300 to 900 for men, and that's the other thing about modern society and health is that like it's. Like, this is sick. Like, 300 for men is sick. Like, that's not...
It's sick care, not health care.
It's not preventative health, which I like that we're preventative health. Yeah. We're like, let's avoid this from happening. Versus like, oh, there's a bullet in you. We should pull it out.
Yeah. Yeah, especially like hormones. I think that HRT, TRT, and they have a place and time, and we should absolutely lean on those. That's not something that we necessarily offer at Restore, but something that somebody should lean on their physician for. There's a lot that we can do to try and keep that dose lower, though. I mean, red light therapy has such great research on improving men's testosterone levels. TRT used with NAD, you can keep the dose down for a lot longer, which just prevents any of those negative side effects that some people have when they get to those higher dosages. Hyperbaric, a huge reason why men's testosterone is low is sleep apnea. A lot of people don't test for that. They are like, I just snore. They never want to do that test. The hyperbaric is not going to prevent somebody from having sleep apnea, but it's going to at least reduce the symptoms that they have because of that sleep apnea. I know that was something that Henry, my husband, really noticed a huge improvement on. He was sleeping so much better when doing that hyperbaric, and I think it's truly because he was in a sleep apneic state, and then that just cycled and his testosterone went low, and it's a cycle at that point. It's really hard to get out of and to improve without anything supplemental.
Yeah, because you get to a baseline where you're like, I just feel like this. Like,
this is just my life.
This is my life now.
Yeah.
And then you start doing everything, and you're like, oh wait, it's like
there's a whole new world out here. I feel amazing.
And then you tell your friends, you're like, why are you stabbing yourself all the time? And I'm like, wait, you gotta try it, dude. And they think you're crazy, and I'm like, guys,
I mean, you are a little crazy, but
no, I'm absolutely a little crazy, but like it works, right? And you get really excited about it. What's one of the like craziest transformations or like stories from because you've been around longer?
Yeah. So there's two that really come to mind. One person had like debilitating arthritis. She was super active, but like couldn't really walk anymore because specifically her knees were really bothering her. And she came in one day and just committed. She was in 5 days a week to do that red light and cryo. And she had before and after scans to show a decrease in her arthritic tissue after doing it for just 3 months. Well, that's insane. And she did not want to take pharmaceuticals. She wasn't on any. And she literally was like, this was life-changing for me. Like, thank you guys so much. I will never forget that one. Another one, micronutrient testing. It was a woman who had 4 children. She was super busy. She owned her own business. And she came in and she was like, I just like feel like a shell of a human. And we did micronutrient testing, and she was pretty consistent with her drips and her diet at home. And I hadn't seen her in a while, and she came back in like 6 months later, and she was like, thank you so much. Like, I truly like this. I'm a different person. My marriage is better. I'm a better mom. I'm doing better at work because it feels like the lights are on again. Those are two that I think really come to mind. But honestly, the stories are endless. We have 4 studios across 4 cities, and it's been 4.5 years, and it is amazing to see some of those transformations.
Yeah. Well, and if you guys like us a lot, if you're like, wow, these people seem cool. Kentucky and Ohio, like Southern Ohio.
Yeah.
That's us. So not pick me, but maybe pick me. We're cool.
Yeah. We have one studio in Beaver Creek, Ohio, Hyde Park in the Cincinnati area, Crestview Hills in Northern Kentucky, and then here in Louisville.
And then for people, I mean, there's a lot of athletes and student athletes who come to get drips. Yeah. Let's build out a drip real quick. What is the best pre-game drip for someone trying to just perform at their best?
Wonder Juice. Just come in and ask for Wonder Juice. You don't even need to remember the nutrients. Just, I want Wonder Juice. Wonder Juice is my favorite drip because it's really well-rounded. It's going to have some immune system support, which I know doesn't sound like athletic performance, but if you're going to get sick, you're not going to be able to perform, so we should absolutely be preventing that. It's going to help with liver function and absorption of your nutrients and converting your food to energy. It's going to have that L-carnitine in there for your muscle recovery and the glutamine. I think it's a perfect drip for any athlete.
And I know, so especially in my field with strongman competitors, because we do obscene things to our bodies.
Yeah.
A lot of them get rhabdo after competing.
Yeah.
I'm also just curious for my own, I should know this honestly. If someone gets rhabdo, what should they do drip wise? I know a lot of them like run to get a drip afterward.
Yeah. Technically you should be going to the emergency room.
Technically, yeah.
Technically we should be going to the emergency room. The biggest thing with rhabdo is the dehydration. So we need to do as many fluids as we can. I think that should just be a preventative measure. If you're doing crazy things to your body, as soon as you are done, you should be coming and getting fluids, maybe a bag and a half of fluids. Trace minerals is going to increase the effectiveness of those fluids because it's going to help you keep that in. Those would be the two. Like, I would literally come in and do a trace mineral in 1,500 of fluids, and then anything you need from a muscle recovery standpoint, glutamine, L-carnitine. We should probably throw some vitamin C in there because you just destroyed your body. Yeah.
And I try my best to get a drip right before I compete and right after I compete. Yeah. Because I need it.
Yes.
Like, and I'm sure if you guys do you ever check your HRV?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when I check my HRV, I do the Whoop. I know you guys are more of the Oura Ring buddies.
No, I know Henry's a Whoop guy.
He's a Whoop
guy? We were both Whoops. So I actually, early in our restore days, got Henry a Whoop because I was like, hey, you're overtraining and you're not like 20 anymore. And he didn't believe me. So he got a Whoop. I got him that because he didn't even wear a wedding ring at the time. I was like, there's no way he's going to wear his Oura Ring. So I got him a Whoop. I really liked the data. So then I got a Whoop. And I honestly should have had commission for a while because I sold so many members Whoops. Oh, yeah. If you're a consistent restore person, you should absolutely have a wearable because it will show you that what you're doing is actually affecting your body. It's the best. But now I'm an Oura person because I really like their cycle tracking capabilities. That's a little bit better than Whoop, and that's important to me in my phase of life right now. But I do prefer Whoop's data usage.
I feel like it's very user friendly.
It's way more user
And
friendly.
I really, oh my gosh, I yell at every customer. I'm like, guys, why don't you, like, wearables are also so cheap.
Yeah.
Like, it's such an easy way to see how it affects.
Yeah.
And so with the HRV, people know what HRV is. What is it, HRV?
Heart rate variability. So, like, if your heart beats 60 times in a minute, it would be logical to think it beats one time every second, but it doesn't. It's a little closer, a little further, and you want it to be more variable because that means your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous system are in sync. You're not, like, over dominating in either one. So if it goes down, then you know that either you increased your stressor, which could be okay. That could be a good thing. I had a really great workout. The next day I need to recover. Or it can be as simple as like I ate too late. And when I eat too late, my HRV goes down. But that's very helpful, insightful data for you to have and track, and not just go off feeling, because I think, I mean, I could have just a bad night's sleep and be like, I'm going to have a terrible day, but like my HRV is fine. Like it's actual data on your body, which I think, again, guess, don't test, or test, don't guess.
Yeah. And it's crazy when you're saying the overtraining part, because I mean, I feel like guys probably overtrain a lot more than they think. Because I'll have a great workout one day, and the next day I'm at like 30%, and I'm like, well, I feel fine.
Yeah, and I can do it again. But truthfully, like, you're never going to succeed. Like, you're not going to get the actual gains that you want if you just keep doing that over and over and over again. You probably could work out less, recover more, and get to a higher goal if you actually listened to your body, which the Whoop kind of forces you to do.
Yeah, no, it yells at you a lot. My biggest wake-up call was noticing my resting heart rate was through the roof, and I was like, well, I don't want to be at like 90 beats a minute resting heart rate. That's not fun. NAD lowered the hell out of that.
Yeah.
I got back down to 60, and I was like, this feels great.
Yeah. Yeah, what's your HRV usually?
When I'm actually recovered and not training like a crazy boy, like 98, 100.
Okay.
So really good.
Yeah.
Right now, not good. It's like 30.
Oh my Lanta. So, I mean, I think that's good. Like, you're like young. You can be like, okay, I can do this for a short period of time, but know that like, hey, I can't do this for the rest of my life, which I think is really important. And not even just in like the athletic training space, but like work performance. Like there are people who just pedal to the metal for years and years and years, and then they end up with cancer or something crazy because they continued onto that streak. And you can use something like a wearable to say like, okay, I'm going to set a time limit. I'm going to do this for 2 years, and then I need to take a break, or I need to stop, or whatever it may be.
And the cool thing about Whoop is that they keep updating their tracking, so you can track cryotherapy now.
Yeah.
You can track certain lifestyle habits.
Yeah.
And they notice like cryotherapy is still a stressor to the body. So they've even seen better on days where you don't weight train, because like having the weight training and the stressor on top of that isn't as good for the recovery as just like, all right, your rest day, do this your rest day. It's like a little hard thing to do that day. That's for all the nerds out there who want to like.
I mean, if you want to get really nerdy, this is out of your wheelhouse, but Whoop did a study and they can predict 7 weeks before somebody's going to give birth to their child if they're pregnant and wearing a Whoop, because they can see the trends in their HRV and they know that the absolute lowest point is 7 weeks, almost to the dot, before they give birth. So
that is interesting.
Anybody in that phase of life, they can be super interesting to see.
I don't have to worry about that one anytime soon.
No.
Maybe never.
Shut up.
We never know how science is going, so we'll see one day.
We'll see where you get.
But yeah, I really do like the wearable. I hope maybe one day Restore partners with somebody, because that would be so cool to be able to track services directly with recovery.
Word on the street that it's going to be Aura, but I'm not going to make anyone any promises.
I have beef if it's Aura, because I love my Whoop.
I agree. I love Whoop. But like I said, they're not great at cycle tracking. So childbearing age people,
you're like, come on, guys,
get it together. Yeah.
So for girls who are looking to like, beauty's a big thing. You know, I'm trying to be as beautiful as I can, as I can be. What could someone get in a drip, or what services could they do to like just make their skin as good as possible?
Yeah, so there's 2 things like just strictly for skin health that I recommend, and it's high dose vitamin C and glutathione. Both of those are gonna work on like the purity of the skin, the like pigmentation, hydration of the skin, and make you feel great. I think truly the biggest thing that we can do from a beauty standpoint, aside from our aesthetic services, because those are amazing, absolutely get in with an esthetician, do a consult for your specific skin type, is working on our hormone cycles and being fertile. I know not everyone wants to be fertile. Absolutely. I get that. But fertility is a sign of health, and healthier people look better. They feel better. They carry themselves better. So really getting in tune with where you're at in your cycle. And if you're on birth control, that's not something that you can do. And that is something maybe you should consider not being on anymore so that you can get in tune with your body in that way. But there's different things in different times where we can handle stressors and we can do more things like hard workouts or saunas and times where we shouldn't be doing that. There's also a ton of nutrients that we should make sure that we are up to snuff on. And that, again, comes back to the micronutrient test. If your B vitamins are low, your CoQ10's low, your inositol is low, your omegas are low, your hormones are never going to be regulated, and it's just going to cause a cascade of different issues. And it can really truly cause anything. It can cause acne, it can cause brain fog, it can cause depression. The list can kind of go on and on with that one.
And for general knowledge about, I'm not a girl, I can't speak perfectly on it, but from what I know so far, birth control is like kind of terrible for you.
Yeah, I mean, and we don't even have to get down the full rabbit hole. We do know that it depletes your B vitamins and makes them pretty difficult to absorb orally. So if that is something that is needed for somebody for whatever phase of life they're in, they should absolutely be doing IV B complex B12. CoQ10 also to kind of protect heart health. We have some studies showing that it's not great for cardiovascular health long term. Depression and anxiety, some people get on it because they want to prevent that, but truly it kind of just takes them to like a neutral state where they kind of just don't feel anything ever. It's a really common thing for our employees, like they start to work at Restore and then they get off birth control. And what I feel like I've kind of developed a little protocol now of doing a micronutrient test before and getting their micronutrient status perfect before they come off, because that can be really difficult for somebody. They can have some rebound effects as their body tries to get back in regulation. And then 3 months after they get off, we do another test and we do the same thing, get them back to normal. And then from there, they're like, I would never go back. I feel so much better now. And absolutely, there are hard days. And like, that's a whole thing in women's health is like, you can't be the same person every single day. But their goods are so much better that they couldn't imagine being back on.
Absolutely. And my sister's currently going through prep, and the first thing the coach did was like take her off birth control.
Yeah.
And hormones way better. Except you get on, it's like the same thing as putting a guy on TRT as like 13.
Yeah.
And you're like, why are you messing with hormones this much when they're that young?
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy.
I mean, so many people have been on birth control since they're 10, 11, 12. I mean, I was like 10 years old when I went on birth control because I like went through puberty really early. I had really terrible periods. We use that as like a Band-Aid for bad periods, which is a sign of poor health. And then I got off when I was 20. So that's a lot of years to be on birth control, especially at that young. I've never gone back on since I had my first child, which I am grateful for, but that can be a really big challenge for people, for sure. It's also a mental block. I think we're told our whole entire lives, like, don't get pregnant, don't get pregnant, don't get pregnant. And you can really only get pregnant 3 days a month. But we don't really teach girls that ever. And we don't teach people, like, hey, bad periods is a sign that something is wrong. This is not normal. So
there's a whole, it's the sex ed class that you wish you had. Yeah. Instead of like, I had the one where they had tape on your hand, they pulled it off, and they were like,
yeah, I did too. We actually, I was just talking to my husband about this the other day, and like as our kids get older, the conversations that we want to have. But.
Yeah, and I'm glad that Restore can at least be a place where people could probably go and like hear information that like we're telling this because we want them just to be better.
Yeah,
we're not gonna make any more money of telling you this stuff.
Yeah, no,
like, just live a better life.
Yeah, and you feel better, and I think that's. Again, like that comes back to the third space. Like we're not just here to sell you services. We're here to improve your overall life. And a lot of what you need to do to improve your overall life does not happen within the 4 walls of Restore. But Restore can make those things a little bit easier with the services that we have to offer.
Absolutely. So if you guys are wanting to come to Restore, was it Brownsboro, Beaver Creek, Crestview Hills, and Hyde Park? I have to know that or she'll hit me. Kidding. Love that. We're actually a very fun workplace. I make most of the jokes, and people normally don't get mad about it.
Cameron is a walking HR violation, but we keep him around.
But it's fun. Also, I love the customers. Like we get along great. I love seeing them progress. Like there's plenty that come in and we talk to each other. We'll text every once in a while just because I want to make sure they're keeping up with their health journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they do a great job at it.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to come in, you can click the link in the description of this video. It'll be right here. And we'll see you soon. Any closing thoughts?
Oh, gosh, you put me on the spot. I don't know. Restore has changed my life both from a career standpoint and from a health standpoint. And I hope that we can continue to grow and service more people because it is amazing.
What she said.